for all the women, I apologize.
Givn'r.
Yeah,
go. We got a nice quiet stage.
I was on Adderall and I
Just read
kept
it.
Givn'r. All right. Okay.
Can you move into the light? To your right, my left. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Excuse me.
Read your speech.
This Jody Shelley was really getting under my Alex Ovechkin like a dirty old Sidney Crosby sting. I've been Steven Stamkosing through this relationship for a long while, and I thought I weathered every Nicholas backstorm she had to offer. She was the Henrik Sedin of the Boston University, but I was about to Ilya Kovalchuk her ass out the window after she smoked all my Mike Green. Ship her right out to Brent Seabrook is what I was going to do. No Drew Doughty about it. When she ripped my last roll of Patrick Cocaine, that's when I Chris Newberry I couldn't Eric Stahl anymore. She was history. I moved on to the next Kyle Brodziak, the following Damon Lankow. It was a Tuesday, and the Brad boys and I were at the local Zach Bargosian, exchanging a few Ryan Getz laughs and wolfing down a few Henrik Zetter burgers. They said they had gone charged my Jeff Picard 185 BJ Crom beans. So I had just about Dion enough of that place. My Chris Osgood buddy needed a chew of that Anzi Kopitar, so he Jared stole it from the corner Jamie's store. I says to him, why do you got a Travis Zajac every Tim Thomas you dabble with? He says to me, you're driving me up the Wojciech Wolski. You're my Joe Pavelski, but I've had it up to my Thomas Van Eck with you. I just want to find him Brian McVeigh and get Thomas Caberlet tonight. I says to him, give me a fucking Dustin Penner so I can write this Marion Host's name down before we mail on Hey Duke It Out. He hit me right in my Joe Sakic and called me a Matt Duchesne.
That was the entire first paragraph, and I took about
If I didn't know this guy as well as I did, it would be a Derek Royal Rumble in the middle of the street, and that's it for sure. We headed Andre Markov to another Eric brewery and got a David Booth. I noticed my buddy's Garnett Exelby was there with some new tequila. Just put it anywhere.
Didn't break, you're good.
And that would have broken my bud Scott Hartnell. I couldn't really get a good Miko Koi view of him, but he seemed to be built like a Nicholas Cronwall. I knew this was no Jussi Jokinen. And it wouldn't be too long for the Brian Campbell to go off and start this scrap. I told my bud I was headed to the Jordan bathroom stall, and I went to speak to this clown face to face. I says, I just want to Rick talk it out. He was being a real stiff and wise guy, and was acting pretty Kelly Rudy about the whole situation. So I says, listen, Goof, you better leave before I Taylor haul your ass outside myself. He says, I know who you are, Gervasi. And as I turned my David Backus to him. I says, that Jay Bomeister Gervasi to you, pal. And I hit him with a Michael Wright Hanzus. He dropped like no one I've ever Ray witnessed before. He hopped in his Dan Carcillo and got the fuck out of town. Or so I thought. Short story long, my buddy took his old broad home that night, and Renee borked her pretty good. There was Mark Jordan, no way she was going back to him. Now,
Oh, God.
after they Victor Headman their James Wisniewski home, it was getting a little Brooks Lake.
Stay to the right.
And the tender tried to cut me off after 5 or 4 too many. I told him I could Keith Yandel myself. Just then, the Kylock bozo walked in with a few of his Andrew lads. They lived in the next Jason Palmageville and over. Who the fuck knew, eh? This one Dennis Wide man came up to me, larger than any guy I've ever Antoine Vermette before. Said, "You and me outside right now." So I Valerie toured him off and said, "I'm Steve Stayosing right here." The tender said, "You better beat it like a kid who got a bad parent-teacher interview." So we took the Chris Russell outside. I was PK Subban from that place for good. It was Jason Arnott, my finest hour of my Trevor Dailies, but I showed up and that's what counts. Checkpoint streak. All bloody and broken, I went to this Kyle Chikchura's house that I was seeing at the time, so I could... Girls, please.
Earmuffs?
Yeah, earmuffs. So I could marry Zick Licky Submit. Turns out she knew about my girl in the Dennis Seidenberg. And all my John Michael Lyles I told along the way. I says I'm sorry, I'm not sorry, Josh Babley. It seemed like she put on a little Fred Holiday Brathwaite anywho. She said Steve ought to know what you did and rambled on about God knows what for a long while while my head was in the Rhine clouds. I Alexei Kovalev that place and figured I'd David Boland on some other plans. After all, I was a Blake Wheeler and she was just a Martin E-Rat. But I got a Ryan Calla handed to her. She knew how to push my buttons. But I didn't like being Ryan Malone on the holidays. So I headed Mark straight to the Rippers and dropped some serious Adrian O'Coin. I got some Doug Gilmore dances and a lot more Ryan Miller lights. I was right Mark Recchi, but I couldn't Nicholas Harmelson a fly at that point. I looked across the joint and said, "Wait a Doug Francois Bosch a minute. That's my old junior coach." I stumbled over to him and said, "Hey coach, how's she going?" We got so Roman Hammerlicked that I couldn't even Donald Brashear a word he was saying. We left the joint and left a solid meeker tipper soft for the broads. We headed to his John Van Beesbrook and smoked some Tom Potty. After he lit up the second Brandon Dubinsky, I started feeling a little Brian Dan Hensick. The only Lee Stepniak was to get some Andy McDonald's. My Kelly Bookburger was under Matt cooked, but it was Jason blocked out by then, and I damn clearly didn't care. It just didn't cross my mind for a second. We Michael Grabner'd a few more Matt Molsons from his James Van Nieuwskeer. After we were having a 2 more Rutu, too much fucking a good night, to fight the wannabes that were juicy heckling us across the Corey Crossway. I read that wrong. I said, "Get a Nikolai fucking clue, man." But we're Jordan 222 damn ham Hughes. But I bill guarantee I'd fuck you up when I'm sober. They knew they better Yaroslav's spot check themselves before they wrecked themselves. I wasn't too Peter Warweld about the situation.
Situation?
I told my coach goodbye and hopped into my Ford Raffy Torres. I figured I'd give her one more kick at the old hen tonight and try to win my broad back. After all, Corey Stillman had no place to go, and I still wanted to get some girls. I still wanted to get some Ronnie Tugnut tonight. I lost my Wayne Gretzky Tried to knock pretty Josh Harding at the door.
Oh, fuck.
I told her I was Aaron ashamed with myself that I totally lied, man. I asked if she'd take me back, Bobby, or at least spend the night. I was real Cal Clutterbuck, and I hope she'd let me Von Phil her tonight.
Oh my God.
She finally let me in and spend the night, but she was too Steve McIntyre to fire up my David Legwan. I asked if she could maybe make me a Jared bowl of pasta while I washed up with her Brent Sopel. I took off my clothes real Jonathan Quick and went to the bathroom.
There's another page.
I was sitting there, Sergey Berezindas, on the bed. Oh, I lost it.
No way.
This
Finish
is a
it.
hell of a story.
Yeah.
Finish
You
it.
know it.
And he didn't do well in English class. This is bullshit.
Submit this.
Oh,
story
Johnny
to
Boychuk, did I pay the carry price for that one? She started Stefan yelling at me. Told me to head back to the Jason LaBarberi. Respect. Oh, I had Jason bar barely any respect for her and threw me out on the street again. I was hanging around till the Matt Sundin came up, and and I decided to Max Pacioretty it in for the night. I headed back to my buddies on the pull-out couch and had another crack at her, Brennan Morrow. That's all.
Oh, well done, kind sir. Well done.